niche technologies are so important. So without much ado, I will introduce General Kuldeep. It actually gives me great pleasure in doing so. General Kuldeep, a very decorated soldier, Param Vishesh Seva Medal, Ati Vishesh Seva Medal, retired as the former DG, Director General Army Air Defense, commissioned in 1974, and was commanded a missile regiment, self-propelled, was also a Navy brigade, and he has held a host of prestigious appointments, including the National Defense Academy, the School of Artillery, the Defense Services Staff College, the Army Air Defense College. He was also at the Army headquarters, and he has had a very important stint abroad as a defense attaché in Stockholm with concurrent accreditation to Norway, Denmark, Finland, and also, after retirement, he was a chairman and managing director of Punjab Ex-Servicemen Corporation. So vast and varied experience, and if I recall well, the vision for the Army Air Defense, whatever is translating now, much has been scripted by the general, and a huge amount of credit for whatever will happen today goes to him. So over to you, sir. The floor is all yours.
Thank you, General Srivastava. I hope I'm audible because in the morning there were major problems about Airtel in our area.
You're fine, sir. You're fine. You're fine, sir. You're okay,
Audible,
sir.
And I was off the link. Thank you very much for the introduction. General Srivastava, Director, Center for Joint Air Warfare Studies. General Ravi Arora, CEO and Chief Editor, Indian Military Review. Thank you for giving me this chance to chair the final session of the seminar. So far, we've had very interesting perspectives of air defense in the previous sessions. Some of them very, very enlightening, and happy to see that things are progressing well. Now, this last section deals with Atam Nirbharta in air defense. Before giving my views, I just want to state that I've been one of those fortunate ones who had 6 tenures dealing with procurement. It may be some sort of a record for the Army Air Defense at least. Also, I was instrumental that I was the team leader of Army Air Defense for the induction of the Strela 10M weapon system in the Indian Army. So I have a fair amount of background of the procedure. But despite all these appointments, while in service, especially when I was DDG, PPO, MGO branch, dealing with the Defense Procurement Manual, it was called, for the revenue procurement, as also the Defense Procurement procedure. While I was DDG, I was fairly conversant with these procedures. However, I have to admit that it's a different ballgame with the Defense Acquisition Procedure 2020. I am not very, very conversant with it. The stated focus of this Defense Acquisition Procedure 2020, some of it is ease of doing business and making the processes simpler. Is that really the case? We'll come to that a bit later. Since the topic is Atam Nirbharta in air defense, it will only be prudent to first speak a few words on Atam Nirbharta in defense per se. Then proceed on its applicability in air defense. First, the requirement. As most of us are aware, imports account for 60 to 65% of India's military requirements. And the country over the past decade has signed contracts worth billions of dollars extra for weapon systems to include fighter jets, air defense missiles, submarines, other aircraft, attack helicopters, heavy lift helicopters, lightweight howitzers, and a host of other products. India is a large spender on defense. As far as the statistics go, the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, in a report in this April, said that India is the third largest importer or spender of defense budget in the world. It cannot just continue this way forever. We have a dire need for being self-reliant in defense production. Indian industry, as you would have noted of the panelists who have spoken earlier, has come a very long way in the past couple of decades. The time is hence right to reap the benefits of the progress made by the defense industry. For Atmanirbharta in defense to be effective, over the past few years, some initiatives have been taken. I will list out 6 of the very important initiatives that have been taken. First initiative was regarding the amendment to the Defense Procurement Procedure 2013. A new clause for indigenous design and manufacture was added, which was to be the preferred way for defense activity. Some additional amendments subsequently, finally leading to the much touted Defense Acquisition Procedure 2020, which is bringing about many changes in the procurement process. Second, to encourage the private players' participation and to expand the defense industry base, the present government removed the restrictions on annual capacity for grant of license in defense sector and also established an online portal. It also issued vendor development guidelines for their benefit. Third, to encourage foreign investment, government enhanced foreign investment limit FDI to 74% and in certain exceptional cases with the concurrence of the government even to 100%. Fourth, to encourage innovative R&D in private industry, the government has earmarked separate funds known as the Technology Development Funds to the tune of a few hundred crores. Under that, the project up to 10 crore can be sanctioned to private industry. Till date, more than 25 industries have availed the benefits of this. Fifthly, for promoting manufacturing based on indigenous design and development, bold and path-breaking decisions concerning restrictions on import of defense items have been taken. Some speakers have alluded to this earlier. I will speak about it slightly later. And one of the revolutionary steps for indigenous development and manufacturing was keeping the provision of around 52,000 crore rupees in the defense budget for this year for indigenous development. Of course, there have been a number of other not so insignificant steps. What are the significance of these 6 major steps? First, it recognizes the potential of the local defense industry. Secondly, to stimulate impetus to defense R&D by attracting fresh investment into technology and manufacturing capability. And third, it provides an excellent opportunity for startups as also to micro, small and medium enterprises to address the issues of defense acquisitions, production and sale. I made a mention of this negative list. 2 of them have been issued in the past a few months. Of course, under 2 different names. These items include high-tech weapon systems, artillery guns, assault rifles, corvettes, sonar systems, transport aircraft, radars, and many, many more pieces. I shall now come specifically to the AD aspects. As I see, no panelist is from the Army. And we have panelists both from the Navy and the Air Force. I will slightly be partial here to the Army aspects, knowing fully well that full justice will be done by the Naval and the Air Force panelists to both the naval aspects and the air aspects. As most of us are aware, AD equipment was largely inducted into the Indian Army in the 1970s and 1980s. Therefore, most of it reached end of life almost simultaneously in the period 2005 to 2010. No replacements were forthcoming. Almost all the equipment was either ex-import or made under license in India. Hardly or no indigenous design product was available. There were two products, however, that were in progress. One was the Akash weapon system, and the other was the low-level lightweight radar, somewhere in the period 2006 to 2009. A word about the Akash weapon system. The initial proposal was for a self-propelled version of the Akash. DRDO produced this equipment. Brigadier, then Colonel Dhaya, carried out the trials for induction of the SP version of the Akash. The trials were protracted, covered over a long period of time in the deserts. However, the equipment did not meet our requirement. The project was foreclosed after taking the concurrence of the Chief of the Army Staff. However, the Army Air Defense Directorate realized that though the system was not meeting our requirements, but all the subsystems were exceptionally good, and therefore concurrence was again taken to reopen the project based on a towed version of the Akash system. I very clearly remember the discussion that took place in the office of the Chief of the Army Staff then, where General Ram Pratap was the Director General. I was also present. Work was to commence soon. And I'm very happy to say a few years later, after exhaustive trials, Akash was inducted into the Indian Army, meeting our requirements. This has been a success story for the DRDO. May I also add a question? Was it the start of Atmanirbharta in the Army Air Defense? Maybe yes. We shall now come to the present day. I spoke about the negative list earlier. Talking of the negative import list of interest to the Army Air Defense, they have included complex systems like the V-Sharats, air defense radars, a host of other complex systems, and coming down to the very humble track assembly of the Tunguska weapon system. Though, as I mentioned earlier, I was involved with the introduction of the Strela. I wish they had included the track system of the Strela 10M also in this. The total items number approximately 25, spread over the period from 2020 to 2025 for induction into the Army. The list prepared by the Army Air Defense has been very prudent. And
Kuldeep sir, we have lost your audio.
So do you hear us? I think there are some bandwidth issues.
Yes, sir. Shall we go on to the speaker, next speaker?
You'll have to parallelly inform him on the phone.
Okay, I'll call him.
So the next person in the session can resume, please.
Okay, sir.
Actually, he's on the phone, so he's having a problem.
So, Mr. Namdeshwar, you are the one who is going to resume now?
Yes, sir. May I start?
Yeah, but I request you to give a very brief introduction of yourself and then
Yes.
you can.
Okay. So first of all, General Srivastava, General Kuldeep, who's not there right now, but General Arora. I was seeing Air Marshal Malhotra and Air Marshal Sachdev, but they are there. First of all, thank you to St. George for giving me this opportunity. I'm Air Vice Marshal N. Tiwari, currently ACS plans in Air Headquarters, Vayu Bhavan, in charge of all capital procurement, and the purview of air defense also comes under the same capital procurement cases. So my basic background, I'm a fighter pilot, primary aircraft being the Mirage 2000, and also the LCA. So I'm a test pilot also, having just commanded the National Flight Test Center, where we did the final operational clearance of Tejas aircraft before I came to Air Headquarters as ACS plans. Earlier, I had also commanded Air Force Station Jodhpur, and I have been a air attaché at Paris from 2013 to 16. I'm an ex-NDA, commissioned in June 1986. So with that brief background, sir, I would like to start on this rather interesting topic of Atmanirbharta in air defense. First of all, unlike General Kuldeep, to be frank, I have not spent too much time in the procurement directorate. However, I have been involved in evaluation of many systems, being in the line of test pilots. Also, this session is going to be a little challenging, being the last session, as always, is challenging. And lunch waiting, I'm sure I will try to keep it short and interesting, and basically cover not from the technical point of view, but more from, I believe a lot of people from the industry are attending, and they will be keen to understand what are the kind of procurements the Air Force is looking at and how it all fits into this Atmanirbhar Bharat. First of all, as General Kuldeep had mentioned, we have the DAP 20, which had recently issued, which gave a lot of fillip to indigenous development and procurement. Now, there are chapters dedicated to Indian design and development, including DRDO being allowed to now look at private sector investment or in technology sharing, so that there is some kind of a level playing field. And this is a national policy, and I think the services are fully conversant with it and fully support it, because at the end of the day, we realize that if you have to be a part to reckon with, you have to have indigenous capability. There is no denying the fact. The new technologies never come to you, neither at the right price. Sometimes it is never, even if you give the right price, it is not available. So therefore, there is no substitute to developing indigenous technology. That said, I would also like to emphasize that as an Air Force, we have seen this right from the beginning, especially when it came to air defense, because we knew that at some point of time, the backbone of air defense is an integrated command and control network. So without this, air defense has really limited capability and limited utilization. So because of which, a decision taken long time back, post the Purulia arms drop case, where we decided to start the integrated air command and control network system. And I must tell you today that this is a fully indigenous system, and at par with the best in the world, because it is constantly evolving. Though it has been many years in the making, we have reached a stage where today that we have, I can proudly say that sitting in one place, you can see what is happening all over the country, including in our island territories. So that is a kind of capability which has given us today the strength and also the confidence that air defense practically will ride on this network, and largely Indian air defense is backed by indigenous development, R&D, as well as systems, both from the radar, sensors, network, missiles, and close-in weapon systems. I just want to give a few observations on what I have seen before I come to some specifics. One is, when it comes to DRDO, earlier there has been a natural propensity to tie up with defense PSUs, because I think there has been a certain degree of familiarity as well as probably a way of doing business. They find it much easier to handle them. And that is the reason why probably many in this private sector felt left out in terms of, these big ticket items coming in. But let me tell you, in the last 2 years, there has been a marked change. And even DRDO has shown a lot of interest in getting private sector on board. And many of our systems today, the preferred technology partner have been private sector, and they have done very well. I won't take names, but I think in this field of electronics, in the field of missile development, there have been many companies which have done well and are continuing to support the indigenization of such systems. But that is one part of the story. The other part of the story also remains that the new DAP 2020 has given a lot of leeway in terms of make cases, whether it is a make 1, make 2, and make 3. That depends on how the technology is to be developed, but primarily focused on indigenous development. And even IDEX in open challenge cases, we find that in make cases, many of the companies today are more interested in actually getting the technologies from abroad, and it is like built to print. So very little low cost R&D, if at all there is, and they are looking at developing solutions which is backed by foreign technology. While that is okay to start with, let me tell you, the general consensus is that we would prefer indigenous technology, and therefore private sector needs to step up on the R&D side. We see that in the lot of startups that we interact with, many of them come up with brilliant ideas, but it's quite a challenge to convert an idea into a technology and a technology into a product. And that is where you have to keep in mind that finally for the services, you need a product which is operational. And there is a gap which has to be filled. Otherwise, you will have an idea, you will have a technology, but if you can't productionize it, it will be of no use to the armed forces. So there, while it is okay to initially start maybe looking at high-tech, technology from abroad, but at some point of time, we feel that the Indian R&D, and there is enough capability, including and finance, that they should start looking at providing indigenous solution to our problems. That is a very, very important aspect which needs to be kept in mind. A word about the positive or the negative indigenization list, which was talked about, or as our Prime Minister would like to say, now it is officially called the positive indigenization list. The second one has come out. There has been a lot of probably heartburn in the industry saying that, okay, why only so many items? Or why on this date? There has been a lot of queries why this has been, postponed to a certain date where beyond which it will come as a customs, say it will be not allowed to be imported. Let me tell that as services, we don't look at the list as a whole, as if everything which is not on the list will be procured from abroad. That is never the case. If we have enough indigenous solutions, there are many items on the list today which are which we are not on the list today, which we are procuring from indigenous sources. So please don't take this list as something, at the end of the day, this is cast in stone, and whatever is written on the list is only being allowed to be produced in India. Anything else, even if it is not on the list, there is no reason we feel that if the right technology and capability is provided, services are not looking to buy from India. That's never the case, because we know finally indigenous technology has its own advantages. Apart from economic and cost advantages, even the fact that if you need to do an upgrade, if you want to do some modifications, it is much easier to handle indigenous systems than if you have to, collaborate with people abroad. So please do not get too worried about this list as such. Even if it is not there, it doesn't matter. If you have a system that has a relevance, we are all for it, and we will support indigenous development. We have been supporting. There are many companies, including startups, that the Indian Air Force has supported in the last 1 to 2 years, including from Meher Baba, where we had this swarm drone competition, where people had done exceedingly well. There are two or three companies we have done so well. It is well beyond what we had initially started off with. That said, let me just also tell that since our backbone of our integrated air command and control system, which is fully indigenous, we expect a lot of Indian companies to actually support this in terms of this is the backbone which will last forever. It doesn't have a shelf life. It is a continuously evolving system. There'll be new sensors added each day, new equipment will be added, new security systems will be added, whether it is, the communication systems, whether it is encryptors, whether it is new antennas, satellite systems, new sensors, all this is only going to evolve. So what started 10 to 12 years back has evolved into a different beast today. And 10 to 12 years down the line, it will be another beast, but still be very relevant because that is the backbone on which our entire air defense network will ride. Just to give you that our air defense system is already largely indigenous. And I'm sure there are many companies out there which support radars, whether it is the high power radar, we are going in for new high power radars, which will be indigenous design and developed. We are going for medium power radars, which will also be indigenous, and low level tactical and transportable radars. All are practically indigenous. So those companies which work in radar systems, I think there is a huge future. We not only have to make new systems because a lot of our older radars have to be upgraded now. They have lived their lives, especially our high power radars and some of our medium power radars. We also have to, there are large areas and gaps which we need to cover, and therefore there will be additional radars required even when it is a network. Similarly, come to missile systems. General Kuldeep talked about the Akash system. Of course, the Indian Air Force is already inducted many of these systems, and the new ones are already in the process of being inducted. We also have the MR-SAM, which is a co-development between DRDO and some foreign companies, but there is a large share being done by Indian vendors, including the private sector. And they are at the point of getting inducted now and still some way to go. So there is a large ecosystem out there which will require to maintain these systems for next 20 to 25 years. So my suggestion is for the companies who are in this business to look at how you can provide long-term solutions to sustain the systems even while the new ones being inducted. And of course, the new ones, the older ones, which today, some of them are even getting upgraded, and private sector is participating very well in that. Similarly, new close-in weapon systems are going to come in the future. The trials are already on, and all this will be Indian, it will be made in India, practically very large number of them. We always think of probably radars, missiles as air defense, but even small things like I said, SATCOM antenna, SATCOM terminals, new systems, because these are all again the communication network on which the air defense will work. Even encryption systems, identification of friend and foe, these kind of systems, while they are small, they are a very critical part on which the entire air defense will work. So the company should not only look at the radars and the big systems like missiles, but even small systems which have a very, very critical place in our air defense. So at the end of the day, I don't want to take too much time, but I would just say that we are, as an Air Force, looking as an end-to-end solution. We are looking for continuous upgrades. So the sustenance part has to be catered for by the industry. It is not air defense systems or any military equipment is not there for 1 year and 2 years down the line, it is obsolete. That's not so. You see that at least 20 to 25 years of life. So that kind of long-term sustenance and relationship is very, very important for the services. Similarly, we are looking at maintenance of the network. That itself is a big area in which people can work. And even new systems like counter drone, many of which we have got various inputs from various agencies. But please we listen to presentations, but let me tell you, most of the people who come with one kind of a solution. For the services, we look more for a comprehensive solution. It is not just a soft kill option. It has to be an entire end-to-end solution from sensor to pickup to soft kill, hard kill, all packaged into a system which is probably mobile and can be easily set up and backed by indigenous technology. And that is the important aspect, because many of the people who come to us come with, okay, I have a partner so and so who is back in US or Israel or any of these countries who come up, and we know that the critical technologies are not Indian. So if you have that critical technologies indigenized, we are more than welcoming them, and you are most welcome to contact us. For the Air Force, we have opened up a Directorate of Aerospace Design, and they are our point of contact for the industry as well as DRDO for any new systems. And they are a dedicated cell, works directly under me, and we are more than willing to help and handhold. We are already handholding many small companies. We provide not only the operational inputs, we also provide you some inputs on where you can do testing, facilitate testings, facilitate certification, if you put in touch with the right people, because most of these kind of systems will have to be certified. So all in all, I would just tell you that there is a bright future for air defense systems, especially indigenous, and it will be required continuously to be upgraded to keep it relevant. Because remember that air defense is a 24/7 job. It is not something just for combat operations. It requires to be kept up all the time, and therefore that importance is there. So with that, I will finish. I'm not sure if the Q&A is going to be now or at the end of it. Either way, I would be okay with it. Thank you.
Amdeshwar, thank you so much for an enlightening talk. I am without my video presently. I'll just speak on the audio. You covered some very interesting things, especially things where the defense industry can hop in and help you. There are long-term requirements, maintenance requirements. There are requirements for upgradation. You made a mention regarding where we stand today. A very illuminating talk. And a few points that stand out are, one is this, you made a mention about the change in attitude of the DRDO. Earlier, it was basically the DRDO and the DPSUs. Now they are more banking on the private industry, which is a very welcome step. You covered about the IA CCS and how over the long term it is going to be available to us. Thank you for a very, very illuminating talk. We will have the question and answer session at the end. After Inder gives his talk, my speech was also got cut in between. I will just cover those aspects after Inder. So may I request Inder to please introduce yourself and cover the aspects pertinent to the Navy.
So thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, please speak.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you are.
I'll just share my screen, sir, and then I will put the presentation, and then I'll start my production and the parts. Sir, please may I know, sir, if you can see the presentation, sir.
1 second, I'm
Coming
just
up, still coming up. Yeah, you can make it full screen.
Yes, sir.
No, make it full screen. Slide mode.
Has it come, sir?
Not yet, not yet. Make it slideshow mode.
Doing it, sir. Has it come, sir?
Go on.
Permission to continue, sir.
Yep, please do that.
Respected Chair, distinguished guests, panelists, ladies and gentlemen, I am Commander Inder Kumar Singh, Commander Staff Requirement, Surface-to-Air Missile and Directorate of Staff Requirements, Naval Headquarters, which oversees formulation of QRs and undertakes procurements of weapons and sensors for the Navy, including AD weapons. I was commissioned in Navy in 2001 as Executive Officer. I am a gunnery specialist and I've headed the gunnery team of frontline destroyers. I've completed my staff college from Bangladesh, and prior to my appointment at Naval Headquarters, I was Staff Officer Gunnery who used to undertake audit of ships at Indian Naval Workup Team, Kochi. Sir, over the next course of next 15 minutes, sir, I would provide an overlook of the naval air defense philosophy, existing AD inventory, emerging threats at sea in air domain, and associated development and induction of futuristic AD technologies in Indian Navy. The scope of my presentation is as shown on the screen. Starting with the air defense philosophy of the Indian Navy. Air defense in maritime environment is quite similar, yet manifold different than AD concepts of Army and Air Force. There are numerous challenges that the sea medium poses for air defense. Primarily among them is the presence of large number of neutrals owing to freedom of navigation and overflight on high seas. Further, the launch of platform, that is ships, are inherently in motion, and the parameters of its motion, including roll, pitch, and yaw, are quintessential in generating an accurate fire control solution. The maritime environment in itself is challenging, with limitations of sea state, weather, clutter, and radar horizon range. A ship is primarily dependent on its target integral sensors to identify and classify a contact, which is further aided by weapon and sensor grid of network-centric operations. The naval fleet primarily relies on self-defense against aerial threats, operating well beyond the radius of shore-based AD cover. Further, the threats from missiles are posed from all domains, including land-based launchers, enemy surface ships, submarines, and aircrafts. The anti-air warfare area shown in the diagram is the area described by the operational commander at sea, within which anti-air warfare measures are taken, and which is kept under constant surveillance for the purpose of instituting such measures. The high-value unit to be defended is located at the center of this area, surrounded by concentric circles of AD escorts and associated weapon ranges. Outermost layer beyond the range of surface-to-air missile is defended by integral fighters. The next layer consists of long-range SAMs. Thereafter, the target is engaged by medium-range SAMs. These missiles also provide cooperative engagement capability, using which weapons and sensors can be cooperatively utilized from different platforms, and thereby enhancing the reach and lethality. Moving closer, they have short-range SAMs, and closer to which the engagement of target is undertaken by medium-range guns and point defense missile system with line-of-sight guidance and a very high accuracy. The closest hard kill weapon is close-in weapon system like AK-630, guns with a range up to 5 kilometers, as also Vishorat. The existing iron inventory for air defense of units at sea ranges from exploitation of integral fighters operating from aircraft carrier to the CIWS as discussed now. Further, a number of other soft kill measures like electronic countermeasures and decoys are employed to deceive and blind incoming threat. Having seen the broad AD philosophy of iron and the present inventory, let's take a look at some of the key emerging threats in today's geopolitical scenario, as it is the threat that drives the development of air defense weapons and vice versa. One of the primary emerging threats to ships at sea is anti-ship ballistic missile, also dubbed as an anti-aircraft carrier killer missile. These missiles are launched from land-based launchers and uses a ballistic trajectory, thereby approaching the target with very high terminal velocity and high angle of attack, rendering conventional AD system ineffective. China has been one of the early proponents of this missile, with Dongfeng 21D typically employed it for anti-access area denial role against American aircraft carriers. This missile is further evolving with its integration of decoys and multiple re-entry vehicles, making its engagement even more challenging. However, this missile is highly dependent on accurate update of target information, relying on a number of space and ground-based sensors forming the kill chain. The next emerging threats are unmanned aerial vehicles, particularly swarm drones. It makes for an extremely cost-effective anti-access area denial weapon, which is being used both by conventional armed forces and non-state actors. Swarm drones are particularly used to disrupt rather than destruct by swamping enemy air defenses. The capability of these drones has been successfully demonstrated by a number of actors and can be used for strategic gains, for which the recent attack on Aramco facilities at Saudi Arabia serves as a timely rejoinder. Further, the usage of drones in Israel-Gaza conflict very recently is signaling setting trend of standard exploitation of such capability to gain advantage over adversary. Therefore, anti-drone weapons, both in soft and hard kill category, have become a critical component of air defense network. The next critical threat is from hypersonic cruise missiles and hypersonic glide vehicles. These vehicles use spacecraft guidance and re-entry trajectories to achieve hypersonic speed, which renders conventional AD systems ineffective. Some of the key challenges includes mid-course and terminal guidance at high hypersonic speed. Number of countries are pursuing this niche technology, and it is in varying stage of development and deployment. Now moving to salient aspects of naval capacity building in the field of air defense. In addition to the procurement of state-of-the-art and most latest arsenals in air defense by naval headquarters through the traditional and time-tested staff process from both global and indigenous stakeholders, a new organization was inaugurated by Honorable Raksha Mantri on 13th August 2020 as Naval Innovation and Indigenization Organization, namely NIIO. The organization has been set up to encourage research and development of cutting-edge futuristic combat technology by participation of Indian industries, MSMEs, and startups. Further, the Technology Development Acceleration Cell, namely TDAC, has been set up by Naval Headquarters towards meeting the above objectives in naval fight domain. The organization also offers Indian Naval Student Technical Engagement Program to foster research and development of futuristic technology in the student of IITs, universities, and other reputed organizations. The TDAC organization is presently working with about 25 Indian industries, has filed numerous provisional patents, and has also made about 8 innovations during COVID situations, which has been highly appreciated by the government. The organization, since its inception, has made remarkable progress in the innovation field, including the air defense domain, and is expected to be the game changer in future. Further, with the increased impetus in indigenization and unwavering long-term target towards achieving self-reliance and eventually self-sufficiency, considerable progress has been made by DRDO and other indigenous agencies in developing air defense capability for Indian Navy, ranging from very short-range SAM to long-range SAM. Developments are being made also in the field of extended range guided munitions and directed energy weapons. While sharpening our teeth in AT capability, it is equally vital to provide AT engagement using an expendable aerial target, which are being indigenously developed with enhanced speed, as also supersonic targets for crew and system training in the near future. Now moving on to some of the futuristic technology in the field of naval air defense, which form an integral part of our Indian naval roadmap. Starting with electromagnetic rail guns, which form part of hypervelocity weapons. Conventional guns have reached saturation in terms of speed, ballistics, and range. Elaborate with the induction of smart and precision-guided munitions. Thereby came the evolution of EM rail guns, which uses electromagnetic energy to propel projectile with speed up to 2000 meters per second at ranges in excess of 100 kilometers. Gun secures key advantage of capability to engage supersonic targets at extended ranges and low cost per shot with no gunpowder. Likewise, it comes with challenges of high impact force, limited barrel life, high power requirements, and low rate of fire. This weapon is in advanced stage of weaponization and development is being made by select navies. Now moving on to directed energy weapons, laser and microwave weapons are rightly the talk of the town. Engaging targets at speed of light, it provides key advantage of precision, variable intensity, ability to engage many times target of and being very cost effective. It provides capability to engage the whole area of threats from hypersonic weapons to drones. although it comes with its own set of challenges, such as high power requirements and complex niche technology limited by indigenous development. This technology is also in advanced stage of weaponization across world navies. Equally critical is the development and deployment of ballistic missile defense capability on board ships. Such capability is an integral component of PMD architecture, such as Aegis system in the US Navy, which provides capability to intercept ballistic missiles during boost and re-entry phase. It provides an array of interceptors capable of engaging weapons ranging from a cruise missile to anti-ship ballistic missile. This capability also warrants integration into an ecosystem of network operations and early warning sensors from all domains. Among the soft kill measures, active off-board decoys provide the next generation of missile decoy system. These decoys are capable of maneuvering and positions themselves along the path of incoming target to deceive it away from own platform. Some of the examples of these decoys are Nulka and Nomad. Similarly, radar obscurant fog function as combat multipliers to screen, blind, or deceive incoming threats. Modern obscurants such as graphite flakes can screen EM tracking and targeting system. Pandara fogs tested by US Navy is one such example of this soft kill measure. With the advent of high-speed weapons and corresponding interceptors, early warning of missile launch is a critical component of AT architecture. Therefore, satellite constellations overlooking such launchers with EM and radar payloads provides early warning of ballistic missiles and thereby enabling the PMT layer defense into play. These systems should be integrated within the network command and control setup, bringing the whole array of weapons and sensors on common grid. Now to conclude, the rapid advent of air defense challenges demands concurrent development of counter technologies to remain ahead of the curve. Therefore, the course of Indian Navy is steady on leapfrogging rather than tail chasing in research and development, including induction of cutting-edge technologies and innovations. Concurrently, indigenization is an unwavering long-term with impetus to impactful outcomes in pursuance of self-reliance and eventually self-sufficiency. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Under this, Kumar Singh, thank you for putting us through the steps. You have covered the philosophy of the Navy, AD philosophy of the Navy, the challenges that the Navy faces at sea, where the domain is entirely different than the land domain, the gamut of sensors and weapons for fleet defense, the AD equipment, the aircraft, the electronic warfare equipment, what are the emerging threats and how you are going to counter them. It was very heartening to see that some institutes of yours have got patents for various designs. And it is also very heartening to note that you have been sending a lot of your officers to IITs for technical training. I think that is the way forward for the future because technology is advancing at such a fast rate that we need to keep pace with it. And unless we have our officers who are well trained, it's going to be difficult. I may also add that while we were in service, we always used to feel that the Navy is far ahead of the other two services as far as the R&D is concerned. And as far as your procedures and processes are concerned for indigenous development of equipment, I see that is continuing now. So very heartening. Thank you so very much for your very nice talk.
Thank you, sir.
General, I believe there was a problem in my audio and video. I left off at a stage where I think I was speaking on the Akash weapon system. Was that right, General Ravi? Yeah. So I'll just take on from there and then I'll conclude in the end. So as I mentioned, as far as the Army Air Defense is concerned, there are three basic pillars which we have heard about in the earlier talks. I won't cover them. But as far as the future developments are now concerned, firstly, I'll cover them in three different aspects. The indigenized technologies, where we stand today. Secondly, the technologies that need to be further indigenized. And thirdly, some niche technologies. Of course, there are some areas of concern, which I will also flag. Firstly, the indigenized technologies as far as the surveillance and tactical control are concerned, as far as the Army Air Defense is concerned. We have a system of radars available to us. Both for the fire control as well as the surveillance and the lightweight radars. They are doing an excellent job. LRD has been the lead in that and manufactured by Bell. The next step, of course, in this would be to miniaturize these particular radars. Then as far as the indigenous technologies for the missile systems are concerned, we have the SR-SAM and the MR-SAM. Next step is, of course, to go in for the QR-SAM and the VSHORAX. Then for the C&R system, we've got an indigenous system. I am told General AP covered it in the initial talk that by the end of the year it will be fielded. It's a very good step going ahead. Next is the technologies that need to be indigenized. The gun systems, the programmable ammunition, and nitrate technologies. These are the steps that gallium nitrate technologies for TR modules, we need to bank on this. The niche technologies, the counter drone systems, the laser and the high power microwave systems need to be developed. As far as systems that are likely to be developed and fielded indigenously by the near future, we have by the DRDO, the laser high power microwave in the technical domain so far. And in the conventional domain, we have the QR-SAM. Under the Make 2 chapter of the DAP 2020, we have the target systems, both the maneuverable expendable target system and the unit level target systems. Capability enhancers, there are augmented reality, head-mounted displays, and integrated AD combat systems, and a number of other training systems. For weapon platforms, you already have the fire control radars and the drone kill systems coming in. And for ammunition capability, we need the a programmable ammunition. It was covered by some of the speakers earlier. Some areas of concern as far as the indigenous AD content is concerned is the SP ADGM systems. We do not have a system of this nature. We want low RCS radars and passive detection systems. Gun systems I'm not covering because we've already got 6,000 crores earmarked for this. Hopefully they'll come in soon. As all of you are aware that AD equipment is high cost and limited civil use. Therefore, there may be a pressing need to have joint ventures for some types of equipment with TOT and technology absorption. The need to enhance R&D capability of DRDO and private sector should, however, be processed with speed to have more Indian designed and developed products. I would have also hoped that procedures would be a little more simpler in the DAP 2020. Tongue in cheek, I can state that it is, after all, not very easy for everyone to grasp a document of 681 pages. And within that document, there are meanings and meanings within meanings. And then there are interpretations of those various chapters. It is a small problem area which needs to be addressed for the future. However, being an eternal optimist, I am very sure in my mind that the future of Atmanirbharta in defense production is a given. I am very optimistic that the research and development organizations, the DPSUs, and the private industry will deliver and deliver well. And maybe that the future generations will claim that we are the defense system production capital of the world. I hope it does happen for future generations. I would like to now thank both the panelists for giving us such illuminating talks. There are a lot of takeaways from the talks. I'm sure General Srivastava and General Arora will address these. With that, we come to the end of this particular session. General Arora, are there any questions that have come up?
No, sir, not in this session.
There is one
Not in
then-
this session.
Okay. Then I think we can conclude this particular session, and thank you everybody for being such patient listeners. And sorry, there was a problem in my net, and I was off the net for some time. Thank you, General Srivastava and General Arora.
There's one question that I see, that what is the relevance of Meher Baba competition among other technology developments like IDEX, PDF?
No, can't hear you, sir. Can't hear you.
You can't hear me. Okay.
No, sir.
Huh?
Now it's okay.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
I see a question here. What is the relevance of Meher Baba competition amid other technology developments initiatives like IDEX, TDF in India's endeavors in becoming Atmanirbhar? Group Captain R.K. Narang. Yeah, it's a question from him. So I guess.
Okay, I can answer, sir. AVM Tiwari.
Yeah, okay.
Just let me tell you, IDEX and MAKE, these are the the paths given through which innovation will lead to an acquisition. Invariably, what happens is we do a lot of co-development, or some startup or a private industry comes forward and says, okay, this is a technology I want to develop. They come up with a product, and then it all gets mired up in trying to acquire as a single vendor case. So that is where IDEX and Make 2 and Make 3 cases will lead to an acquisition, because there is a very clear part defined that even if it comes to a single vendor, these technologies, because it has a relevance to the armed forces, will lead to an acquisition. So that gives certain kind of a certainty to the private sector and to companies as to how this product or this technology will mature into a product, and how that product will finally be bought by the services. So that is the reason why this path of IDEX as well as Make cases was given a certain, some clear procedures were laid out, so that if you follow that procedure, later on there is no hitch in acquisition. So that is as far as the Make and IDEX cases go. Coming to Meher Baba, the Meher Baba competition was designed, first of all, on a very futuristic thought process of how swarm technology is going to affect the environment and how it is going to be relevant to the services. So first, our whole idea was whether we have this capability in the country or not. We had to get that kind of a confidence in our, and mind you, these are all small companies. They are not, very large companies which are investing a lot of money behind this R&D. So we wanted to actually go and basically investigate the ecosystem to see if this capability exists, and how it is going to be used is still a work in progress. In fact, the Swarm Drone competition will lead to certain acquisitions and proving of new concept, because swarm concept, while there are many papers and out there, is still in its infancy of how it will be actually used in the battlefield. That is a work in progress which we are doing it. In fact, we are working with some of these companies already to look at the next generation and how we can operationalize this. So that's my short answer.
So thank you so much, sir. And it remains for me now to thank the distinguished panel and General Kuldeep, sir, and both the panelists for having given us a lot of clarity on where they see the industry is, and it came out quite clear that the indigenous capabilities are being rated very high. And as to what was mentioned by AVM Namadeshwar, actually was very heartening to see that the industry can get engaged for the long term, for 15 to 20 years and more. So that gives them a perspective, a horizon, because of continuity in the systems, which is going to remain. So if that is the way forward, we see a lot of, I would say, positivity in the entire ecosystem. So on that high note, we will conclude this session. And before we do that, we will have the valedictory address by Marshal L.K. Malhotra. A very brief introduction for him. The Air Marshal, highly decorated officer, Ati Vishesh Seva Medal, retired, was the former SASO of Eastern Command, and he was commissioned in the fighter stream 1973. Nearly 4,000 and more hours tucked in his flying experience. And he's a qualified flying instructor, an instrument rating instructor, and an examiner. He's commanded a fighter squadron, has been the chief operating officer of fighter base, and he has commanded the Air Force station at Ambala. Also held the prestigious appointment of ACAS personnel, and, and he has been appointed the commandant of 14th Squadron, which is also known as the Bulls. So with that, sir, the floor is all yours for delivering the validity address. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Am I audible?
So you need to be a little more audible, slightly weak.
Okay. Okay, at the outset, thank you so much for all the kind words which you have said, General Srivastava, General Kuldeep, General Ravi. I thank all of you and all the panelists for having given me this chance and for having been a witness to such wonderful sessions which I have seen over the last 2 days, yesterday and today.
Sir, you are strength too.
Okay. Okay, how is it now?
Yeah, better, sir, better.
Okay, I will restart. First of all, my apologies for joining in late. I think it is the probably technology which was taking the better of me. And General Arora and I were on constant touch on the WhatsApp as well as on the calls. But what was really happening was a simple solution which was required. I switched off my device and I restarted and I just managed to boot in. So I think the technology has its own shortcomings too, and but it has got its solutions. Now, the most difficult part of the seminar or the webinar, I think General Arora always leaves it for me. I will definitely, say it with a little bit of a spite that he makes sure that I have to listen to each and every presentation over the last 2 days so that I can conclude it towards the end of the session. Thank you so much, sir. It's a very onerous task. I really enjoyed the session yesterday and today. And I'm very happy to say that after hearing everybody, what kind of capability do we possess?
Don't mind me interrupting, Malhotra, sir. You can put off your video and get even closer to your computer because it's 10:03 just now. We would like to hear this important talk better, sir. I mean, you have to get a little closer. We can hear you, but it could be better.
Okay, how is it now?
Better, sir, better.
Right. Okay. I was saying that, very interesting sessions over the last 2 days. And after seeing them, I'm very happy to note that what kind of a capability that we possess. But after hearing General Kuldeep just now, I really wish that I was as optimistic as he is. I am optimist. I would like to have all the optimism around me, but there are some things which hold me back from being a total optimist. The capabilities we possess are very good, both in the civil sector, in the industry, in the commercial sector, in the PSUs, as well as in the Army, Navy, and the Air Force, the DRDO, the research establishments. Tremendous. I think there is absolutely no doubt about it. But the fact is it good enough to have that capability? What we need today is that we need everything to be in place where all the stakeholders have a win-win situation. I think probably that is what the integration is going to be all about. I also heard about the self-reliance being Atmanirbhar and all those very nice words, and I'm also very happy that we are doing it. But at the same time, I would like to say that we should not be doing this self-reliance at the cost of reinventing it. We have done very well for ourselves. We have done a lot of leaps and frogs by the progress, but given the environment that we are staying in at the moment, the kind of situation that prevails at our northern as well as the western borders, we may, I'm again saying we might, or we may have to go in for some import of certain items, certain arms, which are very, very essential. And thereafter, we have to definitely take on that transfer of technology and try and do it within the house at a much faster rate than what we really do. I have a point about the transfer of technology. I know that it is not happening now, and I hope that it is not happening. But earlier days, I remember when I think I was the rank of a wing commander, group captain, all the transfer of technology, whenever it took place, the IP codes were just put away in the locker to be used at a later date. To what purpose, I frankly do not know. I have not yet been able to fathom. But fortunately, I think things have improved. And I'm sure, I think that the industry is being given those IP codes to start working on them and come out with items which are of similar competence. Another point which I have got in this respect is, we talk about transfer of technology. Can we also in certain aspects talk about transfer of capability? In the sense, if a particular capability of a weapon system is supposed to be inbuilt, let the vendor thereafter ensure, for as long as we are operating that system, that that capability is always maintained. It's only a thought process, but I think I'm sure somebody can look at it. There was something which in the previous session 7, Air Marshal Sachdeva had talked about. That is about the basic QRs. I have one or two examples to give, which I will in a little while. Our acquisitions need to be very, very sensible, with very sensible QRs. I know of a weapon system where the area headquarters had laid down the QRs, which were far, far more than what they ought to have been. And the result was the weapon system was never really ready. It took something like, I think, about 25 to 30 years to get that system in place. Now, that is not something that we should be looking at. In the present day, we have to get the weapon system, we require the numbers, and at the same time, we have to continuously keep upgrading the systems. The local industry is doing very well, and we all need to think out of the box so that we can integrate whatever the local industry is able to give and whatever is the requirement and what we have on the ground and what we're likely to be acquiring in the next couple of years. The use of artificial intelligence is once again very, very essential, and it needs to be factored. A fleeting thought does cross my mind. I will take you back to about 2 years, and I think in the last few speakers have spoken about some of the recent skirmishes where this happened and where that happened. Unfortunately, nobody really spoke about post-Balakot. You see, the thing was that the very next day, while we were on a state of very high alert, there were aeroplanes which were able to penetrate and come in. That's a different story, that they could not do any damage and that we had scrambled our fighters and thereafter they were on that exit mode. But the fact is that they came in. I really wonder why we did not take them on with the ground-based weapon systems. I mean, it's only a thought. I'm sure somebody can enlighten me on this, but I definitely was a very worried man as to why this is happening, and that also when we are in a state of high alert. So is our AD network absolutely bang on, or does it require a rethink? I'll leave it for the commanders. Along with the present AD network with all the technology, I personally feel, it's only a very personal opinion, that we cannot dispense with the age-old practice of decoy, concealment, diversification of all the assets. And in case the terrain permits, even the mobility of the weapon systems, I think, should definitely be exercised. Someone had mentioned about the whispers in the corridor that the likely announcement of Air Defense Command is going to take place on 15th of August. I hope so. Good. But at the same time, we have a lot of homework to do in case it is being announced either on the 15th of August or thereabout. we have to have our concepts in place. We have to take into account the requirements of all the stakeholders, and possible delegation has to be given and thought of, especially for those target systems which are not within the realm of that the classical network, the classical air defense network. Like the naval officer had just spoken about, I think, Inder Singh, a very, very nice talk, wherein he had talked about that the carrier battle group or the CBG with the aircraft carrier when they're out at sea. What happens? The air defense is automatically with them. So this will in turn talk about a little bit of diversification of the delegation to the individual target systems. Another point that comes to my mind while we're talking about the air defense command coming up is the integration with the industry, which is extremely important. The logistical support, which is essential to any war fighting and winning that war, is so very important that it can be really looked after in case we have the local industry which is integrated with us. The logistics chains can be put into place in a little better manner. A lot had been spoken about the drones, the UAVs, and their integration. Yes, absolutely. I just cannot seem to disagree with all that. And plus, I think last couple of wars have shown the real value of the drones and the UAVs, and which is a very cost-effective weapon system. But we have not to forget what about the numbers, which I will just come to a little later. The most important point in this integration has got to be the training, the communications, the CNR, and the IFF. We just cannot afford to dismiss these items. And in fact, we need to actually build upon them even more. We need to think also about how to defend ourselves with the long-range offset capability of the enemy weapon systems. It was very well covered by the speakers this morning for the various ranges, and plus you have that PDM concept, the BMD concept coming in, wherein multiple weapons need to be fired at the multiple targets which are approaching. Very nice. So it's all very good, yes. But what about the missiles or the other systems which are coming in from across the northern borders? Some of them have even got the capability of long ranges up to thousands of kilometers. Do we have the radar systems to pick up those approaching targets at this point in time? I don't think so. I really don't think so. We need to think about it. We can put our Iron Dome Israeli concept of the Iron Dome concept, S-400 missiles, the anti-ballistic weapons, BMD systems, layered defenses, they're all very good. Integration of all these is definitely a little challenging task, and I'm sure I think that the services are working towards it. Now, the main thing which I spoke about some time back was, even if we have all this in place, let me say that today I have all this in place, and any enemy can come and try and play around with me, and I will take him on. Good show. But what about the numbers? I really don't know that how many numbers do we have? What about the obsolescence aspect of those numbers in case I require so many numbers and I acquire so many of them, and if I don't use them, they go obsolete, then I have to start giving them extensions. Has been adequately covered yesterday. But the fact remains that we may not at this point in time have those adequate numbers, and we require the numbers. And if you have to get the numbers, I require the adequate budgeting for it. Now, budgeting is a big question mark. I have my very, very strong doubts that if we'll get anything more than what we're already getting. And with what we are already getting, and if you're thinking of a theater command, I really wonder where the budgeting is going to really come from. I'm sure, I think that we'll have to do something about it. And for this, I really implore upon the leadership in the armed forces to find the answers. After all, they are the chosen few, and they are the ones who can provide the answers, and they will have to provide the answers. I rest my case. I once again thank St. Joe's I thank the General Srivastava. I thank General Arora for having given me this opportunity. And it was a pleasure listening to each and every one, all the panelists and all the chiefs. Thank you once again, and God bless.
Thank you so much, sir. On behalf of on behalf of all our viewers, listeners from St. George, from the academia, from the private industry, from DPSUs, DRDO, all our eminent session chairs, panelists, it remains for me to thank each one of you, and particularly you, sir, for having very astutely summed up the proceedings of the last 2 days, and we have taken a note of your observations, all of them so cogent and pertinent. We will document them and take them forward. All that remains for me to say is that transformation of integrated air and missile defense in India is something which is being driven by both key drivers. One is the challenges from across, and challenges at both ends of asymmetry. The higher end of stealth and standoff engagement and so forth, and the lower end of leveraging low-cost technologies, which the fourth industrial revolution is increasingly making available to anybody and everybody. So that's come out quite clearly. So we are driven by that challenge. And the second challenge is the structural organizational reforms in shape of an integrated air defense command coming up. So that will be by itself work in progress. It's not going to shape up from day one. I think that's a journey which is going to begin, and it will take a while before we find all the answers. Yesterday, General Sabharwal mentioned about the first step is to get integrated as far as from node-centric and link-centric approaches to get to network-centric approaches. So those are the issues which will be the functional issues which will have to be answered on priority. And I'm sure the pathways which have been suggested by all our eminent chairs and speakers will go a long way towards answering those questions which lie ahead of us. Our industry is showing a lot of promise, and that's come out very clearly. So it's so I would say promising to see that they will remain engaged increasingly more in the years ahead. So thank you very much, each one of you and all our viewers on behalf of St. George. And now I'll leave it to General Ravi Arora, as CEO IMR, to say the concluding words. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll just take 2 minutes. It is my privilege on behalf of the Center for Joint Warfare Studies and Indian Military Review to thank Headquarters IDS and Army, Navy and Air Force Headquarters for supporting this event, and particularly the senior officers who found time to be with us and address the delegates, the Director General Army Air Defense, the DCIDS Capability Development, and Air Marshal Anil Chopra, General Rajiv Sabharwal, General V.K. Saxena, Air Marshal Rajiv Sachdeva, General Kuldeep Singh, Air Vice Marshal Makaran Ranade, Air Vice Marshal P.K. Srivastav, Air Vice Marshal Narmdeshwar Tiwari, and particularly Air Marshal L.K. Malhotra, who at short notice agreed to attend all the sessions over 2 days and give the fine valedictory address today. I would also like to thank the Army's Air Defense Directorate, the Navy's Operations and Staff Requirements Branch, and the Air Force's Operations, Air Defense and Plans branches for having provided domain experts to make presentations, to the DRDO and particularly LRDE, DRDL, and RCI for having sent their best scientists to make presentations on research and development. To our sponsors, Rafael Advanced Defense Systems, Rada Electronics Industries, Sarloha Advanced Materials for having supported this event, and to our exhibitors, LPS Bossard, Paras Defense and Space Technologies, Fluid Controls, Sesmos HET Technologies, Lekha Wireless, and Merlin Hawk Aerospace. And I would like to thank all the delegates and attendees for whom this was organized, to the serving officers, to CENJOS members, to DRDO scientists, industry delegates, academia, and engineering students who attended. And last but not the least, to Team CENJOS and Team IMR for having provided valuable backend support. Our next two events coming up are on military simulators and training on 9 July and digitization and networking or net-centric operations on 6th and 7th August. Do make it a point to attend. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, all of you, and all the best. Stay safe.